measure it flat, it contradicts that. I'm spitting flat facts and that. And I know you don't like that. Google Maps is flat, it presents elevation profiles like that. I'm a spitting flat earth king. Sentence has a ring, doing my own thing. If earth was a big roast chicken, factually finger licking chicken, we just got the measurements missing. I'm spitting eggs and begs, begging the question lesson. I've said it before, time after time. I'm the spitting flat earth king of rhyme.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, how dare you, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a coffee, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and X. Now we are joined by Neil, Surf Daddy, Click OK, Sensual Goat, Refracted Curvature, and a whole bunch of people in the Flipside Discord server, so welcome one and all.
Let's get it on!
Good morning, good morning.
Geographic debate. Yay!
John's moaning. So, as much as he wanted the ends, the people appreciate how flat Earth actually gets measured rather than how ball-shaped it isn't. When the ball's utilising flat Earth measurements to create it, he's now buying into the this is eye-roll worthy, boring when we talk about geography. Flat Earth has been created into a debate, and that debate is something that we are going to start detaching ourselves from so that we can look down our noses at the fart sniffers who argue with other men who are inconsequential to the actual subject matter about how flat it is or isn't, when they suggest with flat Earth measurements that they're on a ball or suggest that we're not on a ball. Now I'm deciding to draw a big fat chalk circle around these people and call them the fart-sniffing flat earthers and anti-flat earthers. More accurately, the fart-sniffing anti-flat earthers and anti-globers. That's what they are. Now, here, us, on Flat Earth Debate, we all appreciate that Earth is measured flat anyway. Nothing we, if we want to call ourselves flat earthers, do, has any consequence on how a compass works, on how a map is useful, on how distance is a horizontal measurement. None of those things are consequential to me. In terms of how epicycles and retrograde motion has been described after the fact based on a church that owned all the telescopes and wanted maths to explain these things, is again long established and in direct violation of the actual measurements that are being practically applied to a flight, when its altitude is measured parallel to the flat ground, when a flight controller instructs them to ascend to a certain flight level, when they use trig to descend a flight path onto the ground, they are using flat Earth prerequisites to make those measurements. These are facts. They're just not facts that are being used by me, the fart-sniffing flat earther, when I start telling next man he's wrong about how ball-shaped it isn't. So, ultimately speaking, we can now look at this from a psychological point of view, not from a geographical point of view. We already know the score. Not only do we know it, we know it's already being used and never stopped being used. Earth as a flat plane being measured as an axiom for Earth measurement never stopped being the case, ever. At no point in history will they have to alter or memory hole any of the measurements of Earth's flat surface after this debate that wasn't really a debate stops. So when people say, I'm changing the world, no, you're not. The world's measured flat by people who aren't you. What you wanted to do was tell someone they were wrong about the religion they were bought into via their, no doubt, state-based education. That's what you want to do. Tell people that they're wrong. Now, I can speak from 10 years' experience when I say that telling another man that he's wrong leads that other man to tell you that you should have your balls cut off, you should jump off a tall building to prove gravity, and have your kids removed by social services. That's what telling next man he's wrong about his religious belief will get you. Yeah? Now, why would you want to engage in that? I suggest you shouldn't. Oh, right, but there's some guy called Duffy, a pastor, who paid other real men to navigate Earth at a flight level they were instructed to from flight control and travel in a flat Earth only direction, has told you that you're wrong about how south is actually down. This people are nutters. Duffy's a nutter, yeah? I don't know if he got a parole, but he's out and about telling people that they're wrong. Why? He's a pastor. You understand that you're arguing with your priest about the Roman Catholics' view of heliocentrism. You understand that, right? Because he hasn't got any bearing on it. He didn't come up with these systems of heliocentrism. His defence of them on behalf of the church won't change how flat maps are, or how linear and horizontal distances are, or how south is a flat Earth only two-dimensional directionality. Nothing a pastor says will change that. But what does the pastor get out of it? Well, he gets to sniff his own aromas, doesn't he? Masturbation of the mental variety. That's what he's doing while he tells you you're wrong. Well, ignore him. Walk away from that nutcase and say, why would I want to engage myself with you? I know what Earth is. In fact, that in and of itself is redundant. You don't need to tell him that you understand and appreciate how a map works. You aren't dealing with maps. You're not coming up with a new clock. You're not developing a better time system or calendar. You're not erecting any buildings, and you're not flying parallel with the surface level by the instruction of ground control. You're not finding your way home in a circumstance at sea where you've got lost and need to measure the Earth flat with elevation angles. You aren't doing any of these things when you tell next man he's wrong. So stop wasting everybody's time from both perspectives, from both flat Earth prerequisite perspective of a ball and from the anti-globe rhetoric of we're not on a ball, we see too far. You're all wasting everybody's time. And me, I know how valuable my time is. Now, I have spent the fruitful 10 years of realising this fact, producing content. This is show 2,500, which means that I've spent a very prolonged period doing exactly what I love, with a YouTube hat on, talking to fantastic people around me. But because I'm telling other people, or was past tense, telling them that they're wrong, they felt the need to suggest that I should have my kids removed, that I should have my balls cut off, and that I should end myself. I'm not worthy of the air that we're breathing. That was the most recent one. That I shouldn't be breathing. That's what I get told. Now, I don't want to involve myself with those people anymore. And if you think it's your due diligence, okay, I've got a pen and a bit of paper. Tell me what you're developing. Is it a new clock? It's not. Is it a new mapping system? It's not. Is it a new way of flying the waypoints instructed by ground control at a flight level? It's not. Are you coming up with a new compass? New directionality? You're not. So, pray tell, how are you consequential to any of this shit? Because every single one of those things is happening anyway. Isn't it? So you want a golden bullet, you want to know Earth's flat, it is. But it was dealt with that way by professionals being paid to deal with it that way, not you. You didn't need to know. You got your state education from a 500-year-old Roman Catholic rhetoric about Earth moving around the sun to explain how a couple of lights move their pattern back one the following night. That's it. That's what they were trying to explain. In a cycle of lights in the sky. What's that? That means we're standing on a sphere. Okay, good for you. On you go. Should I be concerned about being on a sphere? The same exact things apply. Oh, we're on a sphere, you say. Sorry, were you developing a new mapping system? You're not. Were you developing a new flat Earth directionality that we get from compasses? Oh, you're not. Were you developing a new way of erecting buildings on level ground? You're not. What about anything whatsoever that should make me believe that your heliocentric worldview is of any consequence to anything that gets practically applied to Earth and its flat surface? Oh, there isn't anything, but you need to tell me, a YouTuber, that I'm wrong. Why? Oh, right. Oh, of course it's masturbation. Yeah? Mentally, you're just wanking yourself off. Yes, you are, yeah. Yeah, do it somewhere else. It's gross. You stink of your own farts, and you're disgusting. You're an intellectual pervert, and I don't want any part of what you do anymore.
Well, there is the dopamine response of the gotcha question that they try to set up, where they ask you a malformed question and then try to limit your response to either yes or no so they can try to make you look like you're stupid.
I mean, I wouldn't mind if I had some consequence in the matter. So it's like, if you think that you're getting a gotcha by putting some malformed question to me, it's like, have you raised me up on a pedestal where I have a bearing on how the ground gets measured for maps? No, you're talking to the wrong person, you fart-sniffing wanker. You think me, a flat earther, on YouTube is going to affect how the ground got measured for the maps? Am I affecting how kilometres are utilised? No. Oh, but you, a fart-sniffing wanker, has taken it upon yourself to tell me I'm wrong? All right, because that's going to change the world, isn't it? Yeah? Delusional much? You're not arguing with the map makers and the people out at sea saving lives? No, because they'd probably drown you for trying to put everybody else at risk when they're trying to save their lives. That's probably what they'd do to you. Just drown you. Yeah? This person saying that we can't use elevation angle measurements off a flat surface so we can find where we are in this boat that we found ourselves on, having the main ship sunk. We're all desperate. We want to get home. This guy says no. South's not flat. Directionality's antipodal positioning on a globe, derived from a radial value we got from the latitude system that we definitely aren't measuring flat. That's not the ground. Just get drowned. That's what would happen to you in those life and death circumstances. You become a hindrance to everybody else's lives, don't you? Yeah? When you're telling them how wrong they are about how not the ground you're measuring is. Okay, maybe that person would get their phone signal and go, check it out. I've gone to Sustainable by Design and it says that the plane you're measuring from is imaginary. So I'm going to chuck your sextant in the sea because it's not the ground. You understand? It's not the ground, it's imaginary. The ground they've just defined as us measuring with an angle to find our position so we can not die here on this boat. I say not the ground, it's imaginary. Again, you just get chucked off the boat as being a hindrance, you nutcases. But you're not doing it on a boat, are you? You're not out at sea in a life and death circumstance where you'd probably get pushed out of the boat. No, you're arguing with a YouTuber about it in a hypothetical that you're not involved in because you've aggrandised yourself where you are the all-important person on that dinghy saving everybody's lives by telling them that South is down. No, that's not saving anybody's lives, is it? In fact, you're a complete hindrance. You're going to kill people if you're not careful.
Hey, Nathan, is it possible that remember how we talked about it in the context of it's like heroin addiction almost? That's how useful it is. Is the fart sniffing what they're self-aggrandizement? Is that what their addiction is, you think? Or
yeah, absolutely. It gives them a nice little rush if they can prove that the next man's wrong based on word salad that they've learned. Well, I was trying to explain this to my wife yesterday. We were editing chapter 9. I'm trying to explain to them when she's yawning, right? She's yawning because I'm trying to explain to her retrograde motion and what the church are doing and how they're trying to explain it, how the system's been measured. And while I'm telling her, she's falling asleep. And I went, okay, it is boring, but that's by design. Why? Well, because it's got to achieve two different things. One is a dweeb with jam jar lenses who's about this tall with a little penis. It's got to be just complicated enough for him to be able to understand it when he puts a little bit of effort in, because it's about Star Wars, right? So he learns about retrograde motion and orbital motion and gravitational accretion and bending and warping fourth dimensions. And after he's learned this, in his mind, he's the king. If he was in a bar and this came up in conversation, he could stand on the frickin' table and ask for a hushed silence while he delivers his speech on orbital motion, because he is secretly the king of this information. Why? Well, because it's also got to serve a second purpose, where it makes people like my wife fall asleep and go, I don't actually care about this. It's really boring. Yeah, it's actually just sent me to sleep, literally. But it's good to know that you, Jam Jar Glassface, have learned about this, because it means I don't have to. I can get on with more interesting things. But I'm glad that there's experts out there that understand how orbital motion works. Okay, so now we've got the players set. Average Joe, the guy who goes, what difference does it make? I've still got to pay my mortgage. The guy who falls asleep when he hears you talking about gravity. And you, the fart-sniffing, wanker, self-aggrandising guy who wants to get his dopamine rush by telling next man he doesn't understand or is wrong about what they've learned. Those are the players. Then we come along and go, doesn't matter if you understand orbital motion. It has absolutely no bearing on anything whatsoever. I mean, unless you're going to turn it into something practical. Were you planning on making a new calendar? And they go, boom, and explode in rage. A kind of rage that says the man that's saying this should have his kids taken off him. That's what happens. Because we're robbing them of the only thing that they got to elevate themselves above a society that looks down their nose on them. Yeah? Yeah, that's right. The guy goes out and learns how a telescope works, so he can learn how orbital motion works, so he can learn how retrograde motion works, and bent pseudo-geometry from Einstein's field equations. That person is smarter in their mind than everybody else. And we're robbing that from them. Now, that is all they had. Therefore, I should have my kids taken off me. That's how it works. It is as simple as that. We're robbing them of the one thing that they don't actually get a dopamine hit from, their imagination that they can stand on the table at the bar and tell everyone to be quiet while they describe how orbital motion works. That's just a fantasy. In their mind, it's never actually happened. And when it had, you know what happened? Made them even worse. While they started talking about it, the people at the table went like this. What? Oh, I'm glad you learned about this because I find it boring. That's what happened. And that made them even more rageful, right? Because this stuff's very important and you should know how important it is. There could be a rock coming to kill us. So you better understand, Normie. And the Normie goes, I still got to pay my mortgage tomorrow. And that makes them even more rageful because this person just doesn't understand. And they're right, because they don't care, do they? So what do you need? You need an adversary, somebody to stand in opposition to them. Go on mute. Go on mute. An adversary to come along and say, I do smoke in a joint or a bong. I do understand how orbital motion doesn't work. Also, have you heard about 9/11? Yeah, that person can actually be wrong and wants to oppose the glass-eyed, fart-sniffing wanker. That's our players. That's the game. Now, to conclude this, as somebody ruined it off mute for no reason, we can push all those people to one side. Now, Neil asked in the pre-show, which is why I'm going through all this, well, there's people saying that they want to unsubscribe from you. I'm like, what, the fart-sniffing anti-globers who want to tell themselves that they've somehow made a difference to the world? Sorry, was it a new map? It wasn't. Was it a new compass? It wasn't. Was it a new calendar or time system? It wasn't. Was it new waypoints? It wasn't. Did you find a new way of people not dying at sea in terms of their celestial navigation and use of a sextant with angles off a flat Earth? None of the above. Sorry, pray tell, how do you justify to me how important you are in this subject? You're not. It's just a fact. You knowing that Earth is flat didn't change how any of those things are functioning anyway. Just not by your hand. So let them go. Bye-bye. Yeah, every so often as a YouTuber, sod flat Earth for a moment, YouTube hat, you've got to redevelop yourself every now and again. So what are we going to be doing moving forward? Well, we can assess it from the outside, like other people who don't really care that much. Joe Rogan recently fell into this category. He's prepared to have a discussion because he's got a show with a guy who produced Quentin Tarantino movies. He can argue with him for half an hour. I'm sure he doesn't give a crap once the cameras stop rolling. That's Joe Rogan. Lucky bastard. I envy him. So he can have an argue about it from a complete position of ignorance and then forget about it afterwards. Yeah, he can. Does he recognise that's because he doesn't have any bearing on this and he just wants to retain his space faith? No. He just wants to retain his 12-year-old boy's faith in a space that gave him Star Wars. That's it. Let him. He doesn't have any bearing on the maps. He's not producing a new time system. And him not being right about how flat we measure Earth is inconsequential to how flat others that aren't Joe Rogan measure Earth. Now, I like that. I like it. I do know, but I wouldn't want to self-aggrandise and sniff my own farts by telling him how wrong he is. I'd rather tell him how right he is. Yeah, your heliocentrism with your flat Earth radial value, minimum elevation to Polaris. Or derivation of measuring mountains with trig off flat plains. Cool. Yeah, that gave us the answers to retrograde motion, kinda. It was epicycles formerly. Not anymore, thanks to the church. Because Rogan's all for the church. And their rhetoric of explanations for the Lite movement, he's defending it, temporarily, till he loses interest. Yeah, good. We are that now. We can take it upon ourselves to look from the outside in on all of these fart-sniffing wankers who argue with each other like they've got some bearing on how the maps or time works. They don't. I'm done.
Nathan, don't forget, Nathan. What's really what the problem is their lion is gone. They can't put their lion on a leash and bring him into other platforms and have the lion tear apart ballers so they could live vicariously through you. That's a big problem now.
I would have disagreed with you until you said live vicariously, because you're talking about the flat earthers who just enjoy me being that metaphorical lion, being whipped by a whole society that wants the world to be spherical based on their state-based educations, and me coming along and biting their heads off. But that, again, aggrandises myself until you say vicariously. Yeah, it means that they don't have to. The people that have opposed them when they've shared how special a snowflake they are and condemned them and suggest that they should have their kids removed also, they want vengeance. They want revenge. And I give it to them. Past tense. Gave it to them. Well, those people can get lost too. You want to see me biting the heads off ballers? No. Now, if I'm ever going to get onto some show like Joe Rogan, it's not going to be by being a lion. Quite the contrary. He's not going to have me on his show so he can talk about my fighting prowess. Because he's got actual experience in real men fighting with each other. So by comparison, dweebs flapping their hands against fart sniffers isn't as exciting as MMA, is it? But as his equal, somebody who's got a vague interest in Earth because it's come up on his show, or he has genuinely got an interest in Star Wars, that might be something that actually affords me a position on Joe Rogan's show. As long as he doesn't watch and go, this person's just going to tell me I'm wrong for an hour. Who wants that? Nobody.
It's kind of funny, though, if you think about it, because people would want you to do the lion routine, but then they would want to come and fuss at you for how vicious you were with the lion tamers. And then now that you're saying I'm done with all that, they're upset
Yes.
too?
He's
Very
losing
small.
them on both sides.
It's not stereotype, right? We're talking about a tiny, tiny, tiny percentage of people when we make this comparison, right? We're not talking about all flat earthers. For the most part, I've got nothing but nice comments from people as per usual. It's business as usual in terms of people's appreciation for what we collectively do here on Flat Earth Debate. But there's a tiny little proportion of people that did sniff their own farts, that did want to tell next man that they were wrong, and they didn't have the balls to go out and do it. So therefore, vicariously enjoyed me telling ballers they were wrong. Past tense. Those people are a little bit upset. Very small, tiny little... And every single one of them, they've got the same response from me. Don't let the door at you on the way out.
I think it's a little more than a very small. There's quite a few of them, at least 10.
At least 10. Yeah, I mean, you're probably right. It's probably about half a dozen people, 5 or 6 people that have turned around and gone, I don't like this. No, we are important. We're changing the world with Flat Earth. You're like, in the most literal sense, you're not. The maps are already flat. Flight levels are already flat. The system of elevation angle measurement to acquire latitude was always flat. It always will be, and it's currently being utilised on a daily basis by people who are being paid to use it. So you're not changing anything. You don't need to. That's the point. But you wanted to feel important. You want to be a special snowflake. I'm talking to half a dozen people. The rest of the people are like, really? This is a relief. The amount of people that have told me, by contrast, right? So it doesn't sound all doom and gloom. Man, I didn't quite get what you meant when you said just get on with your day 6 months ago. It didn't make any sense to me. Get on with my day? Well, Duffy's telling me I don't understand flight paths. You're like, no. Now I understand how it doesn't concern me. But that's to be phrased with a different intonation. So it doesn't concern me? I don't need to be concerned. I can just know it's flat and get on with more exciting things than having some fart-sniffing wanker tell me my kid should be taken away. Wow, thank you. Yeah, that's right. You don't need to worry about it. It's not a big deal. That's what I meant by that. It's not a big deal for you. It always was, is, and always will be measured flat by everyone, always, if they're measuring Earth. You weren't, though. And even if you, like me or Simon Dan, took it upon ourselves to go and acquire elevation angle measurements from a flat planar surface to describe degrees of the sun, you won't be making a difference either. That's not going to give us a new calendar. It's not going to give us a new map. It's not going to give us new waypoints. It's not going to change how a compass works. It's not going to change how Cartesian GPS is. Everything's flat anyway. So don't delude yourselves. Feel relieved. Feel it's over. You don't need to concern yourself because you are enlightened. You can be Zen too. You can sit there going, I don't care. Go away. You want to believe that you're on a ball? Fine. I don't feel compelled to tell you how perpendicular to a plane your upward vector is. I don't care. I know you don't. I don't want to be around people like you. That's what you should be thinking. Not, I feel compelled to tell you how wrong you are. Well, this person said that I'm wrong. Okay, that easy to taunt? You easily that baited? Okay. Again, I don't want those people around me. They're trouble. They're the girl that you used to go out with that was really pretty, but got a bit mouthy with really big guys when she had a couple of drinks down her. She's a liability. Now, she might be nice to look at, but ultimately speaking, she's going to get your teeth knocked out eventually when she screams at some monster of a man about how he's got a little penis and how she's not going to sleep with him. Suddenly, that guy who won't hit her will hit you. Yeah? That's what that girl is. The guy or girl in flat Earth that says, I am making a difference. Eventually, I'll get the whole world to wake up by telling them all how wrong they are. You're like, oh, okay, so you're a gamma too then? Another secret king? Because who's going to do it? Oh, of course, you are. Very important. What's that? You don't want to do it because you don't like being told that your kid should be taken away? So you want me to do it for you? Fuck off. Go and get into that circle with the other fart-sniffing wankers, because I'm done with you. Oh, good. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. For everyone else, feel relieved. Not only have you achieved what you wanted the whole time, Earth to be recognised as flat, know that it already was. That you were being dragged into a game so that you could be held up as a poster child of a conspiracy theorist to make flat Earth a conspiracy so that they can get away with, that's ball utilisers, with using flat Earth measurements to create their religious belief in a ground that violates the very measurements that they're using. They too, when they argue with you and tell you don't understand. So weren't you travelling south recently? And laugh at them. But more importantly, get away from them quickly. They're a liability. They'll get you in trouble eventually.
Well, every time we... Go ahead, John.
No, Neil, you go ahead. I was just trying to ag Nathan on to say more. Go ahead.
I was going to say, every time we take the next step in this, whatever you want to call it, topic, it always seems to meet resistance. But then people catch on.
Well, it's one of those things, they say, well, okay, well, now that we know it's flat, what do we do now? Nothing. You don't have to do anything.
Now that we know what, because it was really important that you knew, and now you do. Well, you know that it's being dealt with flat by other professionals, so it didn't matter that you knew, yeah? Now, that's a bit of a downer. Now, if only that could be spun into, I'm going to change the world! Suddenly you're the secret king, aren't you?
So what if somebody decides that they want to create a new map and figure out time zones? I mean, they're doing something positive, right?
Yeah. Then you've got to get involved with the bureaucracy and the commercialism and do a better job than the people who are already producing maps. You've got to outperform the Ordnance Survey. Good for you. Now, that's something I can get behind, Neil. What's that? You do want to develop a better time system. Fantastic. You want to replace watches? Good for you. That sounds ambitious. That sounds like you're going somewhere. I can get right behind that. Let me know when you're done.
Well, there is something that can be done with calendars. The leap year system is not a good system at all.
No.
That's neither here nor there.
Well, it is either there. Where did that come from? Who and why were calendars created? Oh, right, it's a log of time. I wonder how we got that. Oh, was it off a flat plane? Was it measurements of angles? Yeah, it was, yeah. Yeah, it was, yeah. Like all roads, this is no exception. They all lead to a flat Earth anyway. Didn't need you to walk it, did it? That path will be there when you're dead. So you didn't need to walk along a conspiracy-ridden path where you were very vocal on the path. That wasn't necessary. The path was already flat, the distance you travelled was already measured horizontal, it was already mapped and charted, and you were carrying a frickin' compass. Yeah? Arguing with the people around you fell down the hills of conspiracy and globe Earth belief to tell you that your directionality was wrong. Meanwhile, compasses were still being sold, maps were still being used, distances were still being measured. We still had all of the cartography. We still had all of the elevations from sea level, regardless of whether or not you found it out, making you inconsequential. But what's that? You're going to change the world, aren't you? No, you're not. You have to like it. I hate to be the bearer of bad news. There was a lot of special snowflakes out there in the flat Earth community. Very special snowflakes. Telling everyone how important it was to understand their latest conspiracy. Now, what do you know? It's not a conspiracy, it's just geography. And it was being used anyway. In fact, a lot of you were all taught it anyway, weren't you? You just forgot when you were taught how our compass worked. You forgot, did you? Yeah, well, it still works the exact same way it was taught to you. So don't worry about it. It'll still get along just fine without you needing to be involved in the process. You know, you still got your horizontal linear distances and your Cartesian systems used in your GPS. They all function quite happily. What's that? You got a sat-nav? Yeah, so you are using a flat Earth system. You just didn't know. What's that? You thought that the title global positioning system meant that it was anything other than the Cartesian grid that was being utilised, with measurements from stars with angles off a flat Earth and horizontal distances of miles and kilometres. Oh, well, now you know you were wrong. That just means you were wrong. You had a religious belief that stood in violation of those measurements that are actually practically applied to the Earth. But they were a practical application of Earth measurements long before you were even born, and they'll still be the case after you're dead. And no one needs to know any different because it's still being used that way regardless of if they believe that they're standing on a curved ground that won't give them linear distances in kilometres. I mean, that won't matter, like, at all. It'll still be used, you're not consequential to it. But should you come up with a new calendar, or a better explanation for the retrograde motion of the lights in the sky, or a better system of waypoints that are ascribed by your government when they tell you what territories you can investigate via the government-paid systems and waypoints they must follow to arrive at certain destinations. You can come up with a better system, you say. Well, I wish you the very best with the red tape and bureaucracy. Good for you. Oh, you don't want to do any of that. Maybe you can get someone else to do it and you can live vicariously through their actions and cheer about how you're going to be changing the world to better waypoints and better horizontal planar claims. They're not. They're how the flight controller demands you ascend the plane parallel with the surface level, measured with a altitude from sea level. So you don't hit mountains. So you don't think there's a void opening up ahead of you when you go down with the trig that you calculate parallel to a plane of reference. All of those things are happening anyway. You just didn't have any bearing or influence on them. Knowing that that is actually the case doesn't change anything, does it? Shocking. Like I say, that lost me half a subscriber one by the time that the show's gone out for a week.
Yeah, I still don't understand why they would want to leave. I don't get it. But, like, I do understand some people are just, dweebs. I guess it's the only thing you can call them. Like, they're on both sides. And they're the ones making this topic so toxic.
Yeah. The toxicity is as a direct consequence of people having internet brave pills. So they've got a suppressed rage and anger that never comes to the surface. Now, me, I've got plenty of rage and anger. I know my monsters. I've seen them. They come to the surface occasionally, and I can cope with them, get them under control, shove them back in the cupboard, knowing full well that they're there. No locks needed. Now, there's other dweebs who've suppressed this inner anger because were they to express it, it would end badly for them. So it's been suppressed. And then they found a little outlet, the internet, where they can take their internet brave pills and let this part of their persona out of a cupboard without any understanding of it, without any control over it. And their vitriol and their general demeanour is disgusting. Why? Because it's the type of demeanour that they would never, ever dare display in public. Now, those are facts. Again, this has got me quite a lot of ridicule recently when I'm highlighting this to our opposing side as dweebs. Because they are. Their general demeanour would not be tolerated in civilised society. Not on the internet. The internet isn't civilised. Far from it. But out in the real world, they'd have their teeth knocked out and their heads stamped on for behaving the way that they do online. Why? Internet brave pills. But the most toxic people, the most vitriolic people, are the people that have kept those monsters suppressed because they've had to. And finding an outlet means that they can carry on with their vitriolic, despicable ways, basically unchecked. Not only unchecked, but fed. People on our own side feed those dweebs. Make them believe that they are the kings that they secretly thought they were, when they give them the credence of the discussion that they have no bearing on. We have been guilty of elevating these tosspots. I'll give you an example. A pastor who thinks that he has some bearing on directionality, flight level, distance measurement, or elevation angle measurement, all of which are flat Earth prerequisites, when he tells people who say Earth is not a globe that they are wrong. This kind of inconsequential fart sniffer has aggrandized themselves to the point where they do think that they have a bearing on Earth and what it is, to the point that they'll make declarations like they are going to end flat Earth with a trip where real men actually transport them from A to B. That's what's happened. It's like you couldn't even get yourself there. You needed other men who were instructed by a ground control to ascend to a certain flight level and travel in a certain direction so that you could land and then measure Earth flat with angles. But in your mind, you're changing the world, aren't you, pastor? Okay, you're not. You're delusional. You're idiotic. You're somebody that I don't want to associate with. These are just facts. Now, they don't like that because they genuinely believed they were the secret king when they weren't.
No, Nathan, we couldn't go there because you said we get turned around at gunpoint when you used to debate flat Earth. Now you're saying there's no debate.
There isn't. Again, popping me on a pedestal is the same by comparison. If you can project your own self-aggrandization in importance next to somebody else who you raise upon a pedestal equal to you, no, both of you are inconsequential. Me being the arbiter of whether or not the Chilean government escort people away at gunpoint. They do. It's happened twice since I've been in this subject. But whether or not I've said it versus whether or not people who filled out a lot of forms and then had real men transport them at a flight level parallel with the surface level, descending with trigonometric functionality measured with respect to a plane so they didn't crash into the ground. Those people then measured elevation angles, and when pointed out that they're measuring flat Earth prerequisites, told me that there weren't any guns there. Yeah, again, raising me up to the importance of whether or not artillery is being utilised versus whether or not you're using a flat Earth measurement to suggest you're on a ball. Both are inconsequential. It's just a fact. Now, when you see that reflection in me saying I'm inconsequential, it makes you feel small on the flat earth side. I get it. The anti-ballers thought they were going to change the world. And I come along and go, no, it's not really important. It's flat anyway. Didn't matter. You go, no, changing the world I am, secretly the king. I'm the one who's going to disseminate this information to the whole world. Very important stuff. No, it's delusional. Well, actually, this pastor told me I'm wrong. Yeah. But now I get to the nub of what's going on here. You felt offended because a pastor told you were wrong.
Well, other people, look, you want to keep saying there's no debate, but I see shows all over, flat earth debate, flat earth debate, flat earth debate, and there's people that are looking at my arguments. You just refuse to look at my measured flat destructive dichotomy argument. So, what are you afraid of, Nathan?
Them, the dweebs. The dweebs do scare me, just to make this absolutely clear. When people say, what are you afraid of? You. Yeah, your own masturbation and fart sniffing and self-aggrandization can lead you to be quite disgusting an individual. That's just a fact. Now, you might not like the fact that you put the fear of God into people when you behave as you behave, but that's just reality, yeah? Now, it's not to say that in person you wouldn't just have your teeth smashed out your fucking head, because you would. Because the society that you actually inhabit in reality doesn't tolerate people like you. Yeah, they take action against you, swiftly. But here on the internet, yeah, you are quite scary. Your persona, in fact, is terrifying. That monster that I can self-identify and control is a monster that you don't have under control, and that does scare me. Yeah, it does. That's what I'm scared of. You. The moment of silence is absolutely warranted.
Well, what do we do now?
We look from the outside in. We psychoanalyse these fart sniffers because we've got 10 years of experience in it. And if they try and engage us in the debate, we can laugh at them, Neil. It's not really for us to try and convert fundamentalists now, is it? I mean, if you're a dyed-in-the-wood, paid-up Scientologist, you're not going to be convinced otherwise. You're too heavily invested. Well, the people inside this circle that we can psychoanalyse are very heavily invested. That doesn't bother me. Still very amusing, still very interesting. From a YouTube perspective, well, what do you know? It's an evergreen subject. Even when you realise that it's all measured flat anyway. I mean, doesn't comport with the Western world society, one world religion of being on a ball. So what? We now know the actual score, don't we? It didn't make any difference to how the world was functional. But it does mean we can look from the outside in with experience. Because most people wouldn't have this privilege. Because they'd be dragged into the discussion like, you don't understand. Well, we do. We all too well know how flat Earth's functionally being operated by people who aren't us. But we're not interested in that anymore. We got over it quite some time ago. Yeah, it's just measured flat, no big deal. You'll still have to pay your mortgage tomorrow. But you're very interested in this, and that interests me. Why are you interested in it? What are you going to be doing of importance? I've got my pen and I've got my bit of paper. Let's hear about your new time system. You haven't got one? I'll just cross that off the list, shall I? Very interesting. We've seen this pattern a few times. Psychologically, you're an interesting subject matter for me to look down my nose over my piece of paper at you from up here, where I condemn you for being a fart sniffer. That's what I'll do. Very interesting. Evergreen subject, Neil.
Hold on. I got Jomo level logic in the chat saying this is going to be fun to watch Nathan over the next few months, burning bridges and being the godly of what Flat Earth should be doing like it matters. This panel will spread Flat Earth to new people 100%.
This guy does realise that I'm about to start a book tour, right? I'm about to go out and tell people on their podcasts about how flat Earth is, based on the 10 years of experience debating the subject and reaching an actual conclusion that is irrefutable. Like, literally, I can make the guy that I've hypothetically described that turns up out of the blue when I'm out promoting my book. So like, you want to promote your book? Yeah, I'm Nathan Oakley, go and buy All Roads Lead to a Flat Earth. All right, well, introducing fart-sniffing wanker who says you're wrong. Really. Point south. That's it. Watch that man piss in his pants as he says, south's wrong. Yeah? That's what you can do. So it's not like I haven't got any weapons at my disposal, should that happen. And for the people out there that are, like, not verbally saying, I want you to be that lion biting people's head off so I can vicariously experience you tormenting these wankers like they've tormented me, that will still happen on a rare occasion. 1 in 10 shows that I go out to promote my book on will have somebody on the show introduced to me at the last minute, and they'll be like, ha ha ha, it's Professor Dave. Oh, Nathan, actually, that's what I'll get. Yeah, along with called Sweetheart. Yeah, that's what I'll get. And what I'll do is go south. Done. 1 and done. Do we need to carry on this conversation? Did he overcome south? Is he making a new compass? I've actually got a pad for this because I now find this person interesting. Professor Dave, how fascinating that you'd be involved in this subject. Are you coming up with a new time-based system? No. What about any new mapping? No. This is a familiar pattern of a fart-sniffing, self-aggrandizing wanker who's decided he's important in this subject. What is it exactly that you do in this subject? Are you going to make some difference to the audience at large that is now sneering at you and mocking you for having no consequence in this regard?
Until he gives his title as a science communicator. And then he'll have power.
Well, no, that gives me an opportunity to talk about the parts of my book where I point out how other subjects have been hijacked. Like science and the scientific method. A science communicator, you say? I'm sorry, south. Does that sound like science to you? Cuckoo! Are you nuts? You think compasses are science? No, they're not. No, you're just wrong. But, I mean, you can call yourself a science communicator. I mean, I don't take it upon myself to describe myself as a geography teacher. I mean, what's that? You're a professor of science, are you? No, we're just talking about how a compass works. I understand what south is. Yeah? Did you forget? But yeah, you'll still get to see that. That side of me will still be brought out of the closet when necessary. That line will appear. It's no problem. But what I'd rather do is approach the people that I'm talking to about my book on an even keel, on a level playing field, like two guys in a bar talking about the football that understand they're not actually playing the game, that they aren't the ones kicking the balls into the goals. They just like watching it. That's us now. We just like looking in on this subject. Fascinating after 10 years of experience and coming to a conclusion that you can't dispute. Like South. Feel free to dispute it. I'll call you a nutcase. That's what'll happen. But understanding and appreciating how Earth was always dealt with is very much the title of my book, All Roads Lead to a Flat Earth. Hopefully it'll sell plenty of copies. Hopefully people will buy it, as they've suggested they will, so they can give to that irritating neighbour that they see on the ride-on lawnmower that calls them a flat earther over the fence in a tone of disdain. You can give them that book. Oh, there you go. We always knew how flat it was. Directionality and measured distance shows it. We've already mapped how high or low things are with respect to sea level. It's called altitude. We've used these systems with elevation angle measurements to develop the maps in the first place, long before either of us ever existed. So why are we having this argument? Why are you pouring scorn on me? Is it projection? Were you bullied at school? Probably.
Well, you got wishful thinkers out there that claim that there will never be a book. You don't even have how you're going to get it printed. You don't have a publisher, and you have all of these other nonsense claims that are coming out. So, you know, you got people wishful thinking, Nathan.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's like they, in their mind, have attached themselves to a process that is exclusively down to me. It's like, okay. Now, I don't have to dignify anybody with a response in this regard. I don't have to justify how I'm getting on with my book. But it's useful to, you know, people will actually want to hear where I'm at in terms of the editing process. The material's all written, by the way. There already exists a book. Now, would it get put out with all the spelling and grammatical errors and inconsistencies in terms of how things are being described. No. It needs polish. That's what's happening now. That's what the editing process does. Polish what is already in existence. But already in existence it's like a metaphorical gem that's been dug out of the flat ground based on the descent into the ground perpendicular to a plane of reference. The gem's been acquired. Now it's being cut. It's being polished, and it will go on sale by Easter. It's called All Roads Lead to a Flat Earth by Nathan Oakley. We are currently editing chapter 9 of 13. So we're more than 3/4 of the way through. When you include all of the different anecdotal, what would you call them? I can't really call them chapters. I like in-between bits that just break up the chapters. So there's something amusing for your average housewife to read. People who like to talk about people as opposed to people who like to talk about concepts. So it's going to appeal to everybody in a certain extent in terms of hearing about the fascination of flat Earth, because flat Earth as a subject matter, the circle we're now looking in on, is what I'm writing about. It's about housekeeping. Well, we only came to those conclusions by very much being within that circle. And that circle started out in the way that I despise it the most now, currently, which is to say, with me asking a load of conspiratorial people how they came to the subject of flat Earth, and having an endless list of conspiracy subjects described to me as a route into a non-related geographical fact that's being utilised by professionals that have no bearing on this fart sniffer that's telling me about his conspiracy that he's came to the subject with, or she's come to the subject with. Ultimately speaking, in almost every single example, the people I interviewed were all utilising Earth as a flat Earth prerequisite plane of reference, or measured distance, or a system that utilised flat Earth measurements of angles, so they could suggest how the ball that they believe that they were on doesn't work. Everybody whistle past what we are now at as flat earthers, in the truest sense of the word. As in, we know Earth is flat. It's just geography. But the road to this place was long, laborious, and full of dweebs. And now we can look in on from outside while selling a book. Like I say, chapter 9 is where we're at. 9 of 13. In terms of editing.
Well, actually, since I've never had anyone ask me to write a book about myself, I know all the steps and processes to writing a book, and you're not following them.
I've just figured out what you're doing. So where in the past we've had examples where we start talking about celestial navigation, for example, we have one of our number, that's 10th man, start buying thousands of dollars, quite literally, of books on the subject so he can research it. And he has an interest in boats, so he might want to use this eventually. He has a desire to become qualified in the process. So with all of the books and money spent in tow, he starts explaining all this to us, people who are inconsequential, who aren't going out on boats, who don't even own or need a sextant, and will, if we did, use maps that were already created for us anyway. Nevertheless, we get explained this in a way that makes us feel like we're very important, like we can change the world with this information. And then somebody from the audience comes on and goes, actually, I'm a navigator. Yep, very high, got all my stars, got little symbols on my shoulders, very important person. Well, what's that all about? Why aren't you doing it? Why are you on the internet? Oh, because I need to tell you how wrong you are. Now, whether or not these people are truthful in their, I would suggest, lies about being spacemen, builders, surveyors, navigators, aircraft engineers, whatever it is that they happen to be lying about in that moment, because we've just learned about how flat that makes Earth with that process. Not that we were consequential to the process was already there, ready to be educated about. We just happened to educate ourselves about it. But suddenly we're surrounded by experts who know exactly how navigation works because they're a navigator. In this instance, suddenly everyone's an author. Suddenly everyone knows how you publish. Oh yeah, how interesting that you would know all about this. Where's your book? Oh, you haven't got one. Maybe you can see if you can steal mine.
Why not? Other people have tried. Just get in line.
Yeah, the book will come out. So it's not very far away. Easter's very close. We're talking, what, 4 or 5 weeks? And we're on chapter 9. So once we've produced it in a full book format, which is to say that instead of it being files with each individual chapter in, It's one file with all chapters in, aka a formatted book. That'll then go through the same rough editing process. That is to say, it'll be passed on to somebody to check spelling, and we'll go through it again to check grammar and check that the order's right. So that's about the only thing that will really change once it gets to the 8th draft. And that's to say that the order of the chapters might be altered. It might be that you have the Coriolis effect chapter before the gravity chapter, or the R-value chapter before the, I don't know, self-perpetuating molten iron core chapter. Whatever. The order might change. But ultimately speaking, the actual content, even though it is going through alterations in the editing process, is there and is accumulated. So it's already 99% there. But yeah, bit of polish, make it a professional product worthy of a relatively high price tag, and then it'll get published. You'll be able to buy it. How long it takes to get various stages of the publication done, that is to say, I don't know how long it'll take to go from being the immediate and easy way of putting it out in terms of distribution, which will be an e-copy. That is to say, you'll be able to download a copy and read it on an iPad or a phone. From there, it'll go into the process of establishing how we can get a hardback and a paperback copy of the book out so that people can have a physical copy of it. But in the meantime, once it's ready to go, it'll be done. There it is. Here's a link to it. And immediately I'll start going out on a tour to publish it, to publicise it, I should say, so that people can be made aware that there's a book available to be bought. And that'll involve me and my wife contacting various different individuals. Thank you so much. I should do a plug for that now. To all the people who've sent me links to and just names of various YouTubers that they would like to see me out and about promoting my book in front of. So thank you very much if you are one of those individuals. I've got a reasonably long list. I might actually grab it and read it before the end of the show so that people can get an idea and get excited about, you know, maybe 1 in 10 of the people on the list being somebody that I'll actually sit in front of and talk about all roads lead to a flat Earth, the housekeeping questions and the process of coming to the conclusion that Earth's measured flat anyway. That's something else in the editing process that I'm currently doing. So for all of its foibles, the book is now at the point where I'm introducing this most recent rhetoric into housekeeping. So where we are describing a downward vector for the rebellious gas particles burning their bras in opposition of the second and third laws of thermodynamics to reach absolute zero, simultaneously gain weight and travel in a vector opposite to the way that they were originally travelling. Those rhetorics are all now being peppered with up a perpendicular vector to a plane of flat Earth reference, down a vector perpendicular to a plane of reference, altitude to describe the Kármán line, being an altitude described only from sea level, if given any credence in reality. These are all the type of injection that the book's getting as a consequence of, number one, getting fucked over by a couple of friends, but ultimately the delay has caused the rhetoric to evolve to the point where it's much more concise, and the housekeeping questions to have within them incorporated a description of every single, well, not every single, where necessary to make the point without it getting tedious, the highlighting of a flat Earth prerequisite whenever one is used. So it makes sense in terms of the title of the book, All Roads Lead to a Flat Earth. Now, where it might not have been the case that the development of each housekeeping question had me injecting the flat Earth prerequisites at every single stage of them being used, half the time we didn't even recognise them. Now we do. I can put those into a book that will be my first book, and therefore have anybody who reads it constantly be made acutely aware of how flat Earth must be to have any of these discussions to begin with. So by the time you're all the way through to the end of the 13th chapter, where I describe 2 thieves trying to rob from me, to round out the book in an interesting anecdotal way from a personal experience on a personal level that somebody can personally relate to as a reader, you'll know for sure and without a doubt that Earth is measured flat. Because without it, you wouldn't be able to have the discussions about molten iron cores, Coriolis effect, Earth curve, gravity, any of the housekeeping questions. All of them required a flat Earth planar surface to reference in order to create the systems to argue about whether or not they exist. That's being made abundantly clear. It's part of the editing process that I'm currently doing. That is what you will get if you buy my book. You'll get the ability to read through each and every ball-believing claim, have it opposed in the way it was opposed when you heard it if you were an audience member listening to those discussions, and appreciate how flat earth is being utilised while we formally, past tense, discuss them without highlighting how flat earth must be measured when debating, in air quotes, because we weren't debating, we were wanking. That's all we were doing, sniffing our own farts.
Well, the little bit I've heard, it's going to be a great book. So looking forward to it.
Neil's been around while I've been writing it, along with other people who are in the panel, and indeed Discord occasionally. I'll have them attend while I'm going through the process. Pretty much what I did on the 5th draft. Allow people to actually get involved with the editing process so they can see what's being produced. Now, it is tedious. There's lots of gaps when it happens. But, you know, join the Discord server. There's a link below this video if you're watching live, which we are currently, but obviously even if you're watching after the fact, underneath this video in the information box there's a link to the Flipside Discord server, and if you're so inclined you can listen to the editing process and hear how the book's coming along. And it's not going to last forever in terms of this process. It's going to be a couple more weeks till we're at the end of chapter 13, and then we start again going through it all on the 8th draft. Once that's actually achieved, that's when it'll become a book, and you can physically go out and buy and download a copy. And then a little bit time will progress and you'll be able to buy a hard copy if you're so inclined. Go ahead.
I was going to say, this might be a good time for you to do like is it an autobiography, the one you write about yourself?
No, yes, autobiography is when you're writing about you. Biography is when you write about somebody else.
Right. You could do an autobiography video or a video biography about the process of writing a book and going on tour, and put that in the back pocket just in case you ever get famous. Like, you know, if it does blow up, like some people have said, then you got like a cool little movie you can, you know, move out to people.
I mean, there might be a second book. Maybe. I mean, hopefully there'll be the need for a second book. And while I'm writing it, like me explaining the dweeb's requirement for this exciting knowledge that sends everyone else to sleep to aggrandize themselves in a hypothetical bar with a table they're hypothetically standing on. That kind of information is a dissection of the current rhetoric that we're refining as we speak, as opposed to housekeeping. So while I'm explaining this to my wife during the process, I'm like, should I insert that as an extra paragraph? Her answer, no. If you end up writing a second book, that's what that will contain. You know, your dissection of the process that you've gone through, as opposed to what housekeeping questions were argued about, brought to conclusion, and now laughed about in terms of how flat Earth had to be for you to argue those points. I mean, it seems stupid, but that is what we're currently doing. What I'm going to do now, though, is I'm going to read out my list of people. So these are the names that I've been given quite specifically from my audience and indeed from the panel. So I'll come off camera because I look a bit too sloppy with my feet up looking at my iPad. So we've got Jesse Lee Peterson, Alex Jones, Eddie Bravo, Joe Rogan, Mark Sargent, Godfrey, if you know who he is, black guy who does a podcast, Killer Priest, Infinite Plane Radio, The Higher Side Chat Show, Bro Sanchez, Eric Debate, Dean Odell, Martin, that's Flat Earth British formerly, Fisherman in a Box, UK Morning News, UK Phone Booth Podcast, Owen Benjamin, David Weiss, Stephen Chess, Jay Dreamers, Russian Vids, Nick, Phuket Word, Morgile, GeoShifter, Patricia Steer, if she's still around, Martin, Mike Tyson, Candy Sowens, Taboo Conspiracy, Jaron, Dave, Dell, Witsit, Vice Media, Russell Brown, the Higher Side Chat. Oh, these are ones that people have actually given me email addresses for. BBC Breakfast, Good Morning Britain, Joe Harvey, Tom Cohen, Kelly Brogan, Dave Murphy, Alex Zeck, Steve Faulkner, Level Earth Observer, Level Earther, Count Dankula, Tim Dillon, Old Sterling, John Campbell, Joey Barton, Carly Vernon, who else we got? Jonathan Smallscreen, who that is, Jack Bendwood, and Man Carrying, I don't know who that is either. There's a couple of others, Daily Agenda, IBT Toy Cat, a gamer YouTube channel again who I'm unfamiliar with. So there's a fairly extensive list of maybe 2 or 3 dozen people that I can get in touch with, or ask a third party to get in touch with on my behalf, to try and get on their shows. And I would expect that if I've got 20 or 30 names, I'll get in front of 2 or 3 people, and that'll start the ball rolling. In other words, I hope people continue to give me these names. That is to say, I don't want you to stop. If you're getting in touch via Skype or whatever it's called now, Teams or Discord, make me aware if you have got somebody that you wanted me to get in touch with. Ideally, I have their email address and their contact name from you. If you just have, I like this particular podcaster, it would be great to see you on their show. That is almost as good. It just means that obviously a certain amount of time has to be dedicated to me acquiring their information to actually get in touch with them. But there's plenty of people on that list that are like that. I haven't got email addresses for all of the people I've just read out, maybe a third of them, but enough for me to get onto the first show. Go ahead, whoever's off mute.
Oh, sorry. Sir Daddy posted Truth Stream Media's contact information in Master B.
Perfect.
So
I'll grab
just
that.
to be aware that they're in there.
Yeah, I'll grab that as well. Marvellous. Thank you very much. But like I say, I want that to continue. So if you've got somebody that you have in mind, it doesn't necessarily mean I'll get on their show. I've got about a 1 in 10 chance in terms of conversion rates, just how many I'll get in touch with based on you, my audience, being interested in them. I would hope there'll be a relatively high conversion rate. Let's say 1 in 10 of the people that I get in touch with will say, yeah, I'll definitely have you on your show. And then when I get to about 10, by about the 10th show, I expect there to be, by the way, I've brought this wanker to talk to you and tell you how wrong you are. So if you like that particular aspect metaphorically of me being a lion biting the head off some baller, that will happen. Yeah, it is inevitable.
The only issue
it does
is only... Sorry.
Good.
Sorry, John. Go on.
No, Mr. Goat, you go right ahead. I've talked plenty enough. You go ahead.
Thank you. I just say the only thing is that everyone does it differently on how you contact them. Some have contact forms that you can click a link to. Some have an email address, but some just use social media or Telegram. So it depends on what you have. Do you have Instagram and TikTok and all the obvious ones? Nathan?
Yeah, sure.
Do you have Instagram and TikTok and Telegram and all those?
What about Telegram?
All right. Well, one of the links, the only way you could contact that guy was by Telegram. So that you might have to outreach now and then.
Sure. I mean, if you've got those,
You have to get on
I've
the
written those
line.
down along with the info of the person. So, like I say, the chances are I'll pass that on to my wife to do, so I can keep passing on PayPals that I've been sending her. So what I've been doing to keep my wife motivated is sending PayPal. So if you recently, in the last, 3 months, sent me a PayPal, it immediately went to my wife to incentivize her to keep editing the video. Rather than me paying an editor, it's like, well, I'll give you what I get from PayPal. That's specifically what she said she'd like, thinking that you should get 5 or 10 quid. But more money came in via PayPal specifically because I've mentioned this. This is probably why I'm mentioning it now. But yeah, if you're one of the people that supported me knowing full well that I'm just going to send it straight on to my wife so that she can keep motivated to edit my book, it's worked. You know, we've worked on it almost daily since that time. Now, I'd like to keep that up. That's just how I'd hope that this will have a positive impact in terms of increasing ad revenue and increasing the YouTube general finance that I get from doing this as a YouTuber, which will mean that instead of me having to flog mics, which is now coming to a close, I think I've got 30 mics left to sell on eBay, and rather than 100 listings, they're trickling through really slowly. So there's no longer a mic mountain in my bedroom getting in the way, so they can just stay as they are. But to all intents and purposes, I've got no more mics on the way here and haven't had for about a month, and there's very few being sold on eBay. So I'm hoping that financial revenue stream will directly get replaced by the book. But also, as a consequence of going out and promoting it, there's a certain increase in my revenue. But that means that I can hopefully continue to give my wife money that I get from my PayPal and motivate her to contact people that are on that list on my behalf as a third party, because I think she'll have more success doing it as a third party rather than me contacting them and then getting into the debate over email. If it's just, would you have this particular individual on my show? Or it might be the case that if I do really well, I get a PA or whatever. Who cares? The point being that it's nice to be able to financially pay another person to get in touch with these individuals. I think it was John originally that said this is the way I should view this, that I should get a third party to actually go out and contact these people. Well, I can keep supplying my wife with the money to financially incentivize her to keep doing work for me, basically. That is to say, contacting people on my behalf to get me on their shows. Go ahead, John.
Well, absolutely, because it gives you an air of importance if you're not the one, contacting them. It's, I don't know, because you're never going to, you're usually going to speak to someone who works for them, right? So that person will, I don't know, it's just, people are weird about the way they treat other people. They think if they can talk to them, then anybody can, and they're not that important. You know what I mean? So having someone do it for you it elevates your importance in the mind of the individual you're trying to contact.
Oh, I see. Very good.
That's absolutely correct. That's why you have representatives. So back in the day when I was representing an electronics manufacturer, could the owner get in touch? Well, yeah, he could just be on the phone saying, buy my stuff. But it's nowhere near as effective as having somebody represent you. That was me. Now, when there's an air of importance to be given to a given customer, I might invite the owner of the company to get in touch with a specific customer, but I'd make the customer aware that it was going to happen and that was special. Is it special? No, it was just some dude. So, who cares? But if you've got that level of detachment, it creates an air of importance. And that is what we're describing when we describe the self-aggrandization of the people in this subject matter. It's like you've elevated yourself into a position that you actually have no relevance in. In the hypothetical scenario where there's a third party contacting somebody on that list that I've just read out for me or on my behalf, that creates a sense of importance around me. But a deserved one. I've got something to sell, a book. There's something practical going to happen. As opposed to you saying I don't understand flight paths when you're actually supposed to be preaching to a congregation about Jesus. It's like you don't have any bearing on this. Shout out to whoever it was that said I should get in touch with DJ Wakes. Thank you very much. He said get in touch with Crow 777. I've added Crow to the list. Thank you very much.
Well, Secrets of Saturn is on that list, and he works directly with Crow.
On the list that I've already got?
Yeah.
Perfect. Awesome.
That's
Find
Jason,
your
his co-host.
conspirator.
Maybe I am.
I almost went, well, actually.
Actually, this person works
The
with Crow.
best line of last week was "Find your dweeb."
Right, to give relevance to this, so find your dweeb is if I am saying I don't want any part of that circle, right? You can argue about you believing you've got importance when it comes to changing the world that's already being measured flat and telling next man who believes he's on a globe that he's wrong about that. So that the globe guy can tell you how you're wrong about how south means down. You can do that. But when those people come to me, it's like, no. Go and find the relevant pastor, the man of God that says he's got a bearing on south. Go and find him. Find your own dweeb. So you can sit around wiping your snot on your sleeve, saying actually to each other. Go find your dweeb.
That's how you said it. Find your own dweeb. Classic.
You know what show this is? You know what the show number is?
No, 2,500.
Today is show 2,500. That is to say there has been 2,500 Flat Earth Debate and Flat Earth Debate uncut and after shows. Amazing.
Nice. I took a guess. I was right.
Great place to be. I remember about probably from the start people saying these words, Flat Earth's a dying subject. Nathan's show won't be around in insert time value here. It's like, here we are, 10 years later. Still just as evergreen as ever.
10 years.
10 years.
It's
being
10
told.
years where it goes the other way, right? Where people drop out. Well, we survived it. You survived it.
I'm glad you brought that up because the stopper on a pressure cooker that whistles when it gets up to pressure?
Yeah.
it's almost like that's what the wave is, because there is such a large part of today's society that utilizes a flat plane to build on, to navigate with, to do all these things. You have to have this topic have a resurgence every so often so you can beat it back down.
That's correct. Absolutely spot on. You have to instill an idea in the public's eye that the flat earth is a conspiracy subject worthy of mocking. And therefore, when it has substantial, demonstrable, conspiratard aspects to it, you can say you were right. Look at all these idiots. That's what you can do. So in order to stamp it down, you've got to first build it up. But it needs to be built up as people, the individuals, the bong-smoking, spliff-smoking hippies that talk about conspiracies. They are the ones that need the stamping. And they need to be stamped down by the people who've taken their brave pills because they weren't accepted in society with their boring-ass information about Coriolis deflection or bent fourth-dimensional pseudo-Riemannian geometry from Einstein. Those people were all viewed as boring because the subjects that they've decided to focus on without any consequence to the actual world are boring. Well, those are the two individual groups that fight amongst each other. And those are the groups that are given a push to come back into the forefront of the public's mind's eye so that they can be suppressed. But you're not suppressing a flat earth. You're suppressing this impression that flat earth is a group of people who talk about 9/11 or talk about COVID, flu jabs, whatever it is that they talk about, and then say, and also we see too far, therefore we're not on a globe. And then they call themselves flat earthers for that. That is what is intentionally put into the public. That's how we were algorithmically guided to be here. A lot of us being conspiratards. We just had a little joke about it a minute ago with Sensible Go. It's like, yeah, we all are. We know how we are. We know how we've got here. We're not in any delusional ways about how and why we are here. We're all here with the same general background, right? I did it when I did Flat Earth UK and interviewed hundreds of people about how they made their way to this subject. And almost every single one of them had the same story, me included to a certain extent. My recognising how flat Earth isn't necessarily the same as everyone else's story in terms of my eureka moment when hearing Math Powerland talk, but ultimately I was only here because I'd algorithmically been led here from subjects that are pseudoscience, like your psychopathy subject or the subliminal message subject. These are the routes that took me to flat Earth. So I can self-demote and ridicule and have some introspection and laugh about it. But that is the description that John's just given. The resurgence of the subject is talking about things like parallax, things like that's the person, as in his pseudonym, and his book, and how he says Earth's not a sphere, and how we see too far. So we can all collectively whistle past the flat Earth prerequisites that are needed to say we see too far. What's the distance? Oh, it's a horizontal linear measurement from surface level. So when we say we see too far, we're buying into the idea that we can whistle straight past the flat Earth measurements, use those flat Earth measurements to create a ball, and then tell next man that he's wrong about it. That can be stamped on. We now, 10 years down the line, just go, it's just geography. We don't have any bearing on this. So we're not going to be used like pawns on a chessboard to be ridiculed and mocked by a bunch of dweebs. We will now stand outside of that circle and look down our nose and have a bit of fun psychoanalyzing the people who do that. Now that we've identified the players, we can. That's not to say that flat Earth's going to die as a subject. Everybody's still in the Western world being taught it as their religion. Ah, good for them. It didn't matter though, the maps were still being used, the GPS was still Cartesian, the elevation angles were still off a flat plane, flight level still parallel with surface level, altitude still measured from sea level still flat. None of these things were in alteration because of you getting involved. None of them are going to be bettered. They might be. I mean, I wish you luck if you go out and do that. Hopefully this is a wake-up call for people to realise that they're not actually doing anything practical, that they're wasting their lives. I mean, like I say at the beginning of this show, I'm a YouTuber. I've no regrets. 10 years of building up a channel. I've got 25,000 plus subscribers. And I'm paying my mortgages with the money I get from this. Yeah, fantastic. That's a win. Very few people achieve their ends as being a successful YouTuber. Now, you might say, well, I would say 1,000 subscribers is much more akin to a start in this process, not success. Like, if 1,000 subscribers gets you your mortgage paid and you don't have to do a different job as a result, then you're a professional YouTuber. Me, with 25,000 subscribers, that's where I've achieved this ends. And I'm absolutely elated. I have nothing but praise and thanks for every single supporter who've got me to this position. Kept the lights on for 10 years doing this. Fantastic. Couldn't be more delighted. Is there any regrets in being able to now stand back from the scum that we were associated with for 10 years? No. It means that we can now move on in this evergreen subject, analysing that process like John just did. Analysing how the subject gets algorithmic favourship so it can be squashed, but without having any consequence on the actual measurements that everybody's using anyway.
Some people get it. The guy, I got to read this because it's a good one from Mountain Red. The FED method of dealing with the debate has evolved into something like jujitsu, redirecting an aggressor's attack energy, axiomatic FE requirements, back against them. I think that's pretty direct. I like that.
Yeah, if somebody's coming in to throw a fist at you, you grab it and throw them over your shoulder. Yeah, their fist is a flat earth measurement by metaphor, and we're redirecting that energy. Well, if you're going to tell me that you're travelling south to prove earth isn't flat, your south direction's a flat earth direction. Do you want to carry on arguing? Now, like Matrix examples with Neo, you eventually reach the point, as described by Morpheus, where you don't need to stop the bullets. When you recognise that they're just little bits of code, then you just put your hand up and the bullets all fall down. That isn't to say in the second instalment of The Matrix, he doesn't still continue to get into the fight, because there they are, they've forced themselves upon him, he can't get away from them, they're dragging him back into the fight. Whether or not he can deal with it with a mere lifting of his hand or not, they still want to fight with him. And that'll be the case for us. Neil was asking in the pre-show, why is it the case when we've reached this Zen position of realising that we're inconsequential, you still get endless messages? It's because we're even more dangerous as a consequence of it to those people in that circle. Us standing on the outside going, we already know how it's measured that way by everybody, you're not in that group, they're a completely separate group that need to be kept sacrosanct because your bull religion relies on those flat earth measurements. That doesn't make us easily detachable from that group, because that group recognises and utilises that which we have now appreciated in the most simplistic of form. Now, that needed to be detached for them as bull believers. Their flat earth measurements needed to be utilised and never highlighted. They needed to say sea level, they needed to say latitude, they needed to describe flight level, and it was only upon a hippie with a bong telling them that isn't sea level flat. No, dweeb, they called by projection the bong-smoking hippie flat earther, sea level bends.
Neil, what Nathan was saying earlier is that you can avoid that fight altogether by asking them who they are, what bearing do you have on this, before I answer your questions.
Yeah, what are we fighting for? Okay, so we're about to get involved in a fist fight by metaphor, and I've described how previously as flat earth debate ninjas, you redirect their energy and throw them over your shoulder. Okay, why are we having this fight again? Were you going to come up with a new map? Did you have some new waypoints? Are you going to come up with a new time system? Did you find that there's an alternative to building on level ground? Oh, none of the above. So why are we having this fight? We don't have to, do we? So I'm just going to step back because there's no benefit. This juice is not worth the squeeze.
Yeah, you could sum all that up, and with I know it's an authority question. And your specialization is what, and how does it relate to this topic?
Yep. They used to say it to us. You've never used a sextant. Now we're going to lean back into it. This is like me saying metaphorically, you see this weapon on the ground and you go, well, cool, I can just pick this up and use it. Bang! Oh, check it out, his head exploded. Isn't that amazing? They were firing at us and we were dancing around like crazy, and here we are. We've still managed to stay alive. But there's loads of these weapons. They're all over the place. So what's that? You say, I've never used a sextant. I've never been out on a boat and found our way back after getting lost. After the GPS that's a Cartesian flat grid anyway stops working. No, you're right. Yeah, that's absolutely correct. So what do? Are you developing a new map? Have you come up with a new compass? New time system, perhaps? None of the above? So why are you having this conversation with anybody, you fat sniffer? Oh, you wanted to tell them they were wrong. You're just a pawn on a chessboard. You didn't make the board, but you wandered onto it. The board's
You got
flat.
people asking in. Sorry, you got people asking in chat if you'll be signing any copies. Which, by the way, Skeptic 936 is going to make his way towards me in May, and stop over, and then have to sign a copy of his book. That's all the guy asked of me. Can I sign a copy of Nathan's book? So I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? But
I don't
needs
see
to
any
have a
reason why not.
book.
I don't see any reason why not. I mean, that won't come immediately. That'll take a little bit more time. But once it's ready, as soon as it is ready, I want to monetize it immediately. That is to say, come Easter, that's when I think it's feasible to have electronic copies distributed that people can hand over money for and buy. Right? That will come first. Then, having seen it physically happen, so...
Hold on, people are going to be stealing it, Nathan.
Hold on. So having literally had books that are physical that I can touch sent to me from Level Playing Poem, this one being Flat Earth Explained, that have got literal writing inside them addressed to an individual, in this case my daughter. You know, I know that this is something that is easily achievable and there's people out there with the means to do it. Now, my publicist and I have not discussed the hard copy availability yet. All that we've discussed is the means of getting a book in the process of being made currently, present tense, and how it will be distributed electronically once it's made, and how the percentages get distributed to the people who potentially promote it with a affiliate program or an affiliate program that I can promote to somebody on that list and say, yeah, you can have 30% of the book. You just have to put a link beneath our interview, and then you'll get 30% of any of the sales of it. So those are the things that I've discussed thus far with the publicist, as opposed to how can I get a copy to Skeptic 936? Not that it's not important to me. I appreciate that, and you know, I'm flattered that, you know, Neil would be signing my book for me.
Oh, hold on a second. Your ebook, aren't musicians getting ripped off left and right? If you put an ebook out there, people will be able to steal it from you, no? I mean, I don't know how that works, but this is what I've been hearing.
Yeah, but what you're saying is the scumbags that are too cheap to buy a book, and they could do that with a hard copy. You could photocopy it. You know, so what?
That's not that easy. Come on, you know that. What are you going to do? Photocopy each page?
Yeah.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah, it is a lot of
They
work.
just got to do whatever they do, and they hack it, and they take it, and you lose money.
Well, you're obviously unaware that there's hacking copyright protection systems that go into books that you buy from an e-store that prevent you from just dragging across, clicking copy, and then clicking paste. So if you do that, it'll garble up the words. So you get it and you start reading it through. We did it at one stage, so I had to copy from one place to another vast chunks of the book, and it would change the text radically, altering the meaning when you actually got the cut version of it. But there's copyright systems. That's not to say that somebody won't come along and go, I can actually hack this and save myself $20. Go ahead. Sad.
The dweeb.
Dweebs, yeah.
Dweeb, right?
Actually, I can get this for free. Oh, really? Well done. So while you're enjoying my book for free, it won't affect me. I don't care. Who cares?
Well, you know, you could make claims about having a copyright protection on citations that you copied. That would
We
be
don't need to
interesting.
talk about that.
That's
That's
sorry.
dead news, Refracted.
I didn't hear that claim till last night. That episode came up on my feed list for Nathan's show, and I never heard it before, so I watched it, and it was like, wow, he's saying that for sure.
The best thing to do moving forward, not just with the people you're mentioning, but people that are constantly sending messages and claiming that they would love to come on here and destroy Nathan, but they're banned. And we know it's only a handful. I don't even mention their names anymore. They are irrelevant. If you keep talking about them, you keep them alive.
I mean,
There's
they
four
might become...
messages just popped up now.
It might be consequential. I mean, these people might develop a new time-based system for us to adhere to, or a new calendar, or new waypoints, or new maps and Cartesian systems, or new versions of the latitude grid measured off a flat Earth, or new distance measurements, or the acquisition ability of said distance measurements. They might come up with a new system for one of these, in which case we'd be like, wow, that's quite impressive. Or we might find it intensely boring. I mean, who knows? We'll have to find out when they present these things to us. But they're not presenting these things to us. They're coming along and going, actually, you're wrong. And you're like, oh, go away.
You didn't say horizontal enough.
Horizontal proves globe. Don't you know that, Nathan?
Yeah, same thing. Go away. You're boring me. Sorry, what bearing do you have on this? Are you coming up with a new system that's non-horizontal, that's going to benefit the world in terms of a new map? What are you going to do? Where's your map? You haven't got one? Go away. You have no bearing on this. But with that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Programming Streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, though, if you are watching this 2500th, I should say, live stream, then massive thank you to all of you for liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing. If you're not already subscribed, be sure to check, because it might be the case that you've been unsubscribed, unbeknownst to you. So check if you are still subscribed to Nathan Oakley 1980. And massive thank you again to today's Discord and G+ panels. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in another 2500 shows.
But when you measure it flat, it contradicts that. I'm spitting flat facts and that. And I know you don't like that. Google Maps is flat, it presents elevation profiles like that. I'm a spitting flat earth king. Sentence has a ring, doing my own thing. If Earth was a big roast chicken, factually finger licking chicken, we just got the measurements missing. I'm spitting eggs and begs, begging the question lesson. I've said it before, time after time. I'm the spitting flat earth king of rhyme.